This episode was sponsored by Teck, a fresh take on traditional taste. Enjoy every occasion with the highest quality Chinese ingredients. Shop now at Tecksang online. Hey there, I'm James, and today we're diving deep into the world of abalone with the amazing Georgia.
Hi everyone, excited to unpack this one. It's got quite the story.
You know abalone, that luxurious seafood, the one that makes headlines for its crazy price tag. Well, we're going to uncover why this shellfish is considered a delicacy in so many cultures and what makes it so expensive.
Yeah, it's fascinating how ingrained abalone is in some cultures, like in Chinese culture. Abalone is more than just food, it's a powerful symbol. You know the Chinese word for abalone?
I don't actually.
It translates to assured abundance, reflecting its association with prosperity and good fortune.
That makes a lot of sense, considering it's a staple at events like Chinese New Year and weddings. But I've got to be honest, I've heard some people say that abalone tastes like, well, glorified chewing gum. How does something that doesn't exactly scream culinary masterpiece become so sought after?
Right, that's the interesting part. Abalone's value is tied to how rare it is, and the challenges involved in actually getting it. Unlike a lot of seafood that you can just catch in nets, abalone needs to be hand-harvested, one by divers
Wow.
who brave the ocean depths.
I can only imagine how labor-intensive and dangerous that must be.
Oh, absolutely. These divers are going down to the seabed, often in rough waters, surrounded by sharp shells, and potentially, facing threats from sharks and other marine creatures.
Oh, wow.
In Tasmania, for example, divers risk their lives to supply the huge demand for dried abalone in the Chinese market.
It's incredible.
And this scarcity is made worse by the fact that abalone thrives in specific cold coastal waters. And some species are only found in very limited regions, like Australia, New Zealand, and parts of North America.
So the limited supply,
Mhm.
coupled with the risks involved in harvesting,
Yeah.
definitely adds to its allure. And the price.
Exactly. And then there's the issue of rising sea temperatures. Because of climate change, warmer waters are impacting abalone populations, shrinking the already limited supply, and pushing prices even higher.
And of course, we can't forget about the seasonal demand spikes, especially during times like Chinese New Year.
Right. The demand goes through the roof during those peak seasons, putting immense pressure on the supply chain and making it even harder to meet the needs of the market.
It's like a perfect storm brewing in the abalone world. Limited supply, dangerous harvesting, and ever-increasing demand. No wonder it's so expensive.
And to top it all off, you have the regulations that governments have had to implement to protect these vulnerable species from overfishing. Overfishing has really hurt wild abalone populations globally. So many regions have imposed strict quotas and regulations on harvesting.
Do you have any examples of these regulations?
Absolutely. Take Perth, for instance. Abalone fishing is incredibly restricted there. They've limited it to just 1 hour on 4 Saturday mornings between December and February. And even then, individuals can only take a maximum of 15 abalone.
Wow, that's incredibly limited. Talk about limited edition seafood.
It really is. These regulations show how crucial it is to balance meeting the demand for abalone with ensuring the long-term survival of the species.
It seems like everyone involved in the abalone trade is walking a tightrope.
They are. And the value placed on abalone extends beyond just harvesting and selling it. In China, for example, abalone preparation is an art form. It often involves complex and very expensive techniques, requiring immense skill and expertise. In fact, there is a renowned abalone chef in Hong Kong named Yang Guangyi, the founder of IE Abalone.
Okay.
He was awarded the highest medal of honor from the International Chef Association.
That's incredible. So he's like the abalone whisperer. What makes his abalone so special?
Well, each piece of his abalone is reported to cost around 6,500 Australian dollars. That's a testament to both his culinary artistry and the premium ingredients used in traditional Chinese abalone dishes.
Wow, that's a lot more than my grocery budget.
Yeah, it really puts into perspective how much cultural significance and value is attached to this seafood. However, even within this world of high-end traditional preparation, we're seeing some fascinating changes, particularly here in Perth. Newer generations of Chinese immigrants are moving away from those complex traditional preparations and embracing simpler methods, like barbecuing, or even preparing abalone sashimi style, influenced by local Australian practices.
So it's like a fusion of cultures happening on their plate.
Exactly. They're adapting their culinary traditions to incorporate local influences, creating a unique and evolving food culture.
That's fascinating. It shows how food can be a bridge between different cultures, blending traditions and creating something new and exciting.
It really does. And speaking of cultural influences, I find it remarkable how the Chinese community here in Australia is increasingly advocating for environmental protection. They've been incredibly supportive of the fishing restrictions, recognizing the importance of preserving abalone populations for future generations.
That speaks volumes about their understanding of the delicate balance we need to maintain with the natural world and their respect for the environment. But it brings up a critical question. With all these challenges facing wild abalone, is there a way to enjoy this delicacy without further endangering the species?
That's where things get really interesting. It leads us to a potential solution that we'll explore in detail after a quick break. Farmed abalone.
Farmed abalone. Okay, we'll dive into that right after the break. Stay with us.
Farmed abalone offers a potential solution, one that could meet the growing demand, while taking the pressure off wild populations. It's a complex topic with a lot to unpack.
You mentioned farmed abalone before. How does it actually compare to its wild counterpart in terms of taste, texture, and of course, cultural significance?
That's a great question. Farmed abalone has come a long way. The taste and texture are remarkably similar to wild abalone, and some chefs actually prefer the consistency of farmed varieties because it can be more predictable.
So it's not just a matter of settling for farmed abalone. It might actually be a preference for some.
Absolutely. And in terms of cultural significance, remember that the symbolism associated with abalone, it isn't necessarily tied to its wild origins. It's more about what the abalone itself represents, prosperity and abundance. So in a way, farmed abalone could help preserve those traditions.
That's an interesting perspective. By shifting to farmed abalone, we could actually ensure that future generations can continue to enjoy this culturally important food without further depleting wild populations.
Exactly. By reducing the pressure on wild populations, we are giving them a fighting chance, while still allowing people to enjoy the cultural and culinary experiences associated with this unique seafood.
I see what you mean. But what about the environmental impact of abalone farming? I know any aquaculture operation comes with its own set of challenges.
You're absolutely right. Abalone farming, like any aquaculture, does have an environmental footprint. But the good news is that with responsible practices and advancements in technology, we can minimize the impact.
What kind of advancements are we talking about?
One exciting development is the use of recirculating aquaculture systems, or RAS. Imagine a self-sustaining mini ecosystem in a tank. These systems constantly filter and reuse the water, reducing waste, and minimizing the impact on surrounding ecosystems.
That sounds like a really promising solution.
Yeah.
But how do consumers feel about farmed abalone, given the prestige and price associated with the wild varieties? Is there a willingness to embrace farmed abalone?
That's a crucial point. I think there's a growing awareness among consumers about sustainability, even when it comes to luxury food items. As people learn about the challenges facing wild abalone populations, they're becoming more open to exploring alternatives.
So you're saying there's a shift in the consumer mindset,
Yeah,
where sustainability is becoming a key factor in their purchasing decisions.
definitely. It's no longer just about the price tag or the perceived exclusivity. Consumers are increasingly looking for transparency and sustainability in their food choices, particularly for seafood. They want to know their abalone was raised responsibly, with minimal environmental impact.
That reminds me of the trend we're seeing with coffee, chocolate, and other luxury goods. Consumers are increasingly willing to pay a premium for products that align with their values.
It's about making choices that reflect your values. Choosing farmed abalone can be a way to enjoy this delicacy, while supporting sustainable practices. And let's not forget that farmed abalone often offers a more consistent and affordable product, which opens the door for a wider range of consumers to experience it.
So it's not just an environmental win, it's also a matter of making this culturally significant food accessible to more people.
Exactly. It's about finding a balance that benefits both the environment and consumers. And just to be clear, this shift toward farmed abalone isn't about devaluing wild varieties. It's about recognizing that we need to adapt our consumption patterns to ensure the survival of this species.
You've given us a lot to think about, Georgia. It's clear that abalone, whether wild or farmed, is more than just a fancy meal. It's a symbol of cultural heritage, a testament to human ingenuity, and a reminder of the delicate balance we need to maintain with the natural world. But before we wrap up, I think it's important to dive into the economic side of the abalone industry, which is quite a fascinating world in itself.
It really is fascinating. The abalone industry, it's a microcosm of global trade, cultural trends, and environmental concerns. It's a story with twists and turns that might surprise you.
It sounds like we're about to unravel a really intricate tapestry, so we know that wild abalone commands a premium price.
Oh.
But how do the economics of farmed abalone compare?
Well, farmed abalone generally comes at a lower price than wild-caught, making it more accessible to more people. That affordability is largely due to the controlled environment and higher yields associated with abalone farms.
So a win-win for consumers who want to experience this delicacy
Yeah.
without breaking the bank. But does this lower price affect the perceived value of abalone, especially in markets where it's traditionally viewed as a luxury item?
That's a great question, and it's a valid concern. However, as consumers become more aware of sustainability, I think we'll see a shift in how we value it. People are considering the environmental and ethical implications of their food choices more and more, and that includes abalone.
So you're saying that the story behind the abalone, its origins, its impact,
Yeah,
is becoming just as important as the price.
absolutely. Consumers want transparency and sustainability in their seafood. They want to know that their abalone was raised responsibly with minimal environmental impact. It's not just about indulging in a luxury anymore. It's about aligning your values with your consumption.
It's really interesting how economics and ethics are intertwining in the food industry. This reminds me of the trend we see with other luxury food items, like coffee and chocolate. People are happy to pay a premium for products that are ethically sourced and sustainably produced.
Exactly. It's all about making choices that reflect what's important to you. And choosing farmed abalone can be a way to support those values.
This has been a really enlightening conversation, Georgia. The world of abalone is so much more complex than it seems. We explored hidden costs, cultural nuances, and the dance between supply, demand, and sustainability.
It's a story that highlights how connected our choices are and the impact those choices have on the environment and on cultural traditions.
Absolutely. You've given us a lot to think about. Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a final thought. Could embracing farmed abalone be a way to both honor the cultural traditions associated with this delicacy and ensure its future? It's a question we're thinking about as we navigate the complex world of food choices and their impact on our planet. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of abalone. Until next time, keep exploring.